Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Okay, let me pull my screen up and see who's hopped on. Pam's here. Love it. Peggy's here. Michelle, Nicolette. Hey, Karen. Karen's here. Lauren's here. Kay. Oh, goodness. So many lovely, lovely people. So we're going to get started here in a moment, but I'd love to hear in the chat where you're joining from. Where'd you hop on from? Pam's from Oklahoma, Karen's from Virginia. I'm here in the Midwest, so I'm here in Kansas City, and it's a beautiful day, but it's going to rain the next 4 days, so it's okay. Chicago, Mississippi, Maryland, Idaho, Michigan. Amazing. Ah, rainy in Central California. 'Tis the season for that weather. Well, we're going to be talking about lactic and retinol today. And it's a little bit tricky because we're going to talk about retinol for sure, but we're going to talk a lot about our retinol alternatives. So we do have a couple of products that have a retinol alternative. It's not a retinol, but we'll come back to what it actually is and what is it what it's made of and all that. But before we get too deep in the weeds here, I do want to call Grace in and have her tell you what we've got going on because we've got some really cool stuff.
Yes, let me go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay, so we're offering two gifts with purchase today. So when you spend $100 or more, you will get a free botanical lactic toner with the code ASC100 lactic. And again, it's in the chat. You will want to make sure to add the botanical lactic toner to your cart and then apply the code when you are checking out. And then our second one is if you spend $250 or more, you will receive a free activated night serum. And there's no code needed for the activated night serum. Once your cart reaches 250, it'll automatically be added. So to summarize, if your order is $250 or more, you are eligible for both gifts. The free botanical lactic toner with the code ASC100 lactic and the free activated night serum added automatically. Both gifts are available until 1 p.m. Pacific time. And just a little note, these offers are not applicable towards subscriptions or products in our natural home collection or the beauty shelf. I know that's a lot of information. So if you have any
Mhm.
questions at all, feel free to put it in the chat and I am happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. Uh, so just to high level reiterate a couple pieces, we've got two giveaways happening today. So if you are spending $100, it could be $100 on anything that's an Anne Marie skincare product, and you're using a coupon code, we're sending you the Botanical Lactic Toner. The big thing to remember with the lactic toner is you do need to add it to the cart and you do need to use the coupon code. The other giveaway is our activated night serum. And this is with orders over 250. There's no code needed, so you don't have to do anything fancy. If you hit 250, this gets added to the cart automatically. So just make note that for both gifts, you're going to use a coupon for the lactic toner. No work on your end required for the activated night serum. So perfect. Okay, and we'll probably reiterate that throughout the call just to make sure that feels clear and we've got it. But let's dive in. So let me introduce myself first. My name's Kate, and I host these live calls. This is one of my favorite things that I get to do. I am a licensed esthetician and spent many years working behind the counter. I feel very comfy talking about skin, and very comfy talking about our products. So today we're going to talk about lactic acid and retinols. And I'd love, as we're going along, as you have questions, put them in the chat because I'm going to be sharing a bunch of info, but I want to know what you're wondering, or I want to know if you have, questions about application or order or anything like that, as we get started here. So right out the gate, what is lactic acid? What are retinols? So lactic acid, we tend to think of lactic acid as kind of this like surface refiner. A good way to differentiate what's going on here These are both exfoliants for the skin, lactic acid and retinol, or our Bioactive A, which is a retinol alternative. These are both exfoliants. These are exfoliating the skin by their chemical makeup. There's no physical texture, there's no like buffing or scrubbing that comes up. We definitely have those. We've got like kaolin microexfoliant and scrubs like that. But these are working in a chemical way. And I'm always a little cautious when I offer, these are chemical exfoliants because sometimes that terminology can turn people off, or they can be like, oh, I don't use chemicals. But these are chemical based on their makeup. Lactic acid. So we have two products that have lactic acid. Lactic acid is essentially this ingredient that causes the surface skin cells to just gently swell a little bit. They do that and they help to break down what are called desmosomes, which are basically like skin cells and dead skin cells that can bind the skin cells together. So if skin is looking really dull, if skin is looking really flat, if skin is looking, just a little lackluster, retinol goes very far. Retinol, kind of in the industry, we use retinol a lot for brightening the skin. So if we're working on sunspots, if we're working on dark spots, if we're working on, post breakout dark spots, usually lactic acid is involved somewhere because of the way lactic acid causes the skin to swell a little bit and you get this gentle sloughing. Now, none of the lactic products that we have are as intense as like a chemical peel or something like that. So you're not going to have actual peeling that takes place. But these are still having this like micro effect. So with dark spots, lactic can help to kind of trigger this resurfacing that's bringing the activated melanin in the skin closer to the surface and then sloughed off. So we love, love, love it for that. And then let me introduce the two lactic products that we have. Now, the first one, of course, is our giveaway. This is the Botanical Lactic Toner. I think internally we are all a little bit obsessed with this. One of the things I love about the Botanical Lactic Toner is that a lot of different skin types can use this. So even if you are someone who is on the fairly sensitive side, or you know that you can be sometimes prone to reactivity, the Botanical Lactic Toner is formulated with a fairly mild lactic component with the intention to be used with some frequency. So this is a toner. This is a pump top. If you're, familiar with our products, which I know many of you are, most of our toners come with this mister top. The lactic we wanted to have in a pump because we don't want you to get lactic acid right around your eyeballs. So essentially what you do is you're going to pump it into the palm of the hand, taking your fingertips and then applying it to the skin. And with the lactic toner, I do anywhere from kind of 3 to 5 pumps. You can build it and you can layer it. And that's one of the things that I think attributes to its popularity is a lot of people will use it and they'll do maybe 2 applications. So they'll pump 3 to 5 pumps, apply a first layer. They might do a second round, which intensifies it a little bit more. And this is where it gets to be really good for skin types that are on the very dry and very sensitive side, is you can start very mild with this. You can do, 3 pumps max and gently cover the face. And then you've got just this light exfoliation that's happening. The other thing about the Botanical Lactic Toner is we are using this only in the evening. Because this lactic acid stays on the skin, and then you go, if you were to go out into the world, it just increases the potentiality that you would be undoing a lot of the work that you're doing with UV exposure. So, nighttime, you can layer it. Excuse me, you can do 3 to 5 pumps. You can do, another round of it. But this is incredibly supportive for fine lines, for dark spots, for smoothing, for refining. So this is the first lactic product that we have. The next one here, this is called the resurfacing facial exfoliant. This is one of my favorites, but I like to go a little bit more intense sometimes. So the resurfacing facial exfoliant is our most intense exfoliant. This one does use a much higher percentage of lactic acid. And I can't remember the percentage. I think Rachel said it was around 18. It was like 12, somewhere between 12 and 18% of this. So if you know that you are really sensitive, if you know that you're prone to being quick to flush or quick to react to products, okay, we probably know that this one might be a little intense for you. The resurfacing facial exfoliant is a gel consistency that you wear like a mask. So, you'll wash your face like normal. You're going to apply a nice thin layer, and it's super normal, if not expected, to feel some activity with this one. It is very, very common to feel a little bit of a tingle or a little bit of heat. You might have, yeah, just some flushing that's pretty normal with this being on the skin. Now the directions for the resurfacing here, we say leave it on for anywhere from, 3 to 10 minutes or so. And you can genuinely stick to the 3 minute mark. You could also leave it on a little longer, but 10 minutes tends to be where it kind of peaks in activity. You don't get a lot of the lactic really working after that 10-minute mark. So it can kind of depend on your comfort threshold. Some people like to leave it on for just the 3 or 5 minutes and then remove it, and that's perfect for them. So this is the resurfacing facial exfoliant. This one, again, has that higher percentage of lactic acid. So we're using this to smooth the skin. We're using this to refine the skin. This is also balanced with a lot of skin soothers because if we just had this lactic acid, you'd probably be really red. You'd be really tight. You'd be, a little uncomfortable afterwards. The resurfacing facial exfoliant also has cucumber distillate, it has some blue tansy, it has some hyaluronic acid, which are all utilized to support strengthening the skin and support kind of quelling any irritation or sensitivity or reactivity that comes up with the resurfacing facial exfoliant. So, the frequency with this one is a lot less frequent. With the lactic toner, you can get away with doing this nightly. I have some customers that use this every single night. I'm a little slower with the lactic toner. I integrate that one maybe 3 or 4 nights a week and then take a couple nights off. With the resurfacing facial exfoliant, this is one that I'm usually maybe using once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, just because of the intensity. And it is something that you do want to kind of keep in mind with what you're doing the next day. If you know you're about to go to the beach and you're going to be out in the sun all day, maybe the night before we don't use the resurfacing facial exfoliant. So, kind of your setting also can impact that. Jean, I see your question here. Would you apply it to the neck area? Yes. Both of these you can. I actually really like the resurfacing facial exfoliant with like lines increasing on the chest. I'm a side sleeper as much as I wish I wasn't, but I am, and so I'll wake up and I'll have creasing kind of here in the chest. And this is one that when I put this on the face, I definitely put it here in the chest too. But likewise with the lactic toner. So this is one that does really nicely on the neck. Really just kind of like gives it this more taut look. And it's cumulative. So the toner, it's got this very mild lactic feel. So it excels. It really kind of sings with more consistent usage. It's designed to be integrated into the routine pretty regularly, and is, I think I mentioned before, is very popular with some of my folks who have sensitive skin. So these are the two lactic products. What other questions can I answer about lactic or lactic acid before I start to talk about all things retinol, and retinol alternative? You can pop these in the chat here. Have you guys tried these? I'm curious. And if you have, what's your experience been like? Have you found that you it was comfortable or maybe felt some intensity, anything like that. Another tip, as you know, I'm sure you're furiously typing, the botanical lactic toner. I've also layered that under masks before. So the illuminating pearl mask, if I'm going to do that one, I will pump this into the palm of my hand, apply a nice light layer. I'll let this actually dry, and then I will apply the illuminating pearl mask over it. And it's just that much more radiant. It is really, really nice. Yeah, so Karen hasn't tried them, has sensitive skin. Sounds like the toner would be okay. Yeah, that would be my expectation. The if you have incredibly sensitive skin, the resurfacing facial exfoliant, this is gonna probably be an aggravator for you. But the botanical lactic toner, this one is pretty mild. Most people don't feel activity with it. You probably are going to feel smoother. One of the things I really like about the botanical lactic toner is it's this perfect ratio of lactic acid and hyaluronic acid. So you get this refining. This is one that we get a lot of feedback for fine lines, specifically fine lines that are showing up on the forehead there. Feels really, really good. And with very sensitive skin, you might start slower. So you might start with maybe 2 nights in a row and then take a couple nights off. Like I said, I do 3 or 4 nights on and then take a couple nights off. And that could change as it gets warmer and as my skin's a little more supple. I might find that I like to do it a little more frequently, but so far and throughout the winter, 3 or 4 nights was really, really good for me. So, nice. Melanie's used the exfoliant and your skin's doing well with it. That's great. Yeah, so Emily, are they beneficial to aging skin? Yes, this is actually what they're specifically designed for. So lactic's really supportive for refining the skin, which can be helpful for fine lines, can be helpful for creasing, um, texture that can show up. So sometimes texture, when we age, we start to see it along the chin or the jawline where it's just kind of like it's like deeper wrinkles that are happening here that are texture more than their facial expressions. And both of these, the lactic acid is very supportive for those. It just really gives the skin this like extra glow that feels quite good. So yes, quite good for aging skin. Oh, nice. Jamie used the resurfacing facial exfoliant last night. Oh, love that you followed that with the honey mask. That's one of my favorite things to do, actually, is to do the resurfacing facial exfoliant. I usually will follow it with the illuminating pearl, but doing the illuminating pearl mask right after is like really glowy. So, yeah, that's awesome. Let me let me see. These are good questions. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Can you use both at the same time, or is that too much or unnecessary? So I would say for most people, probably not, but you might be one of those skin types that you potentially could. I have not done it. I have not combined them. But I'm not opposed to getting creative and kind of pushing the edge of what's comfortable. So, Melissa, if you have a pretty good grasp on your skin, you could layer it. You could do the botanical lactic toner, leave it on, and then do the resurfacing facial exfoliant. Now, of course, note that that is going to be a much deeper exfoliating feel. So, proceed with caution. But for most people, layering those is going to be a little on the intense side. So, okay, Diane hasn't tried it yet. Hey, Diane, glad you're here. Should the mask be used at night only? So the mask, I think it's a little bit better at night because the skin is going to be nice and kind of fresh right afterwards. It's not staying on the skin in the same way the lactic toner is, though. So the lactic toner, you put it on, it stays on. It stays on until you wash it. The resurfacing facial exfoliant, that one you leave it on and then rinse it off. So the potentiality for, the sun to be particularly intense is a little different, but it is a more intense exfoliant. And so you are going to be a little bit, fresh skin. This is going to be really new skin at the surface there. So either way, I'd be very mindful in the morning after, or if it's the same day that you're putting your sunlove on. Maybe good sure to protect the skin. Would this be good for wrinkles around the lips? The toner, yes. Okay. This one, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Also really great for creasing around the nasal labial fold, starting to just kind of smooth and refine that too. I don't think I would put the resurfacing facial exfoliant super close to the lip. It's a little intense. This one could be a little bit too much for that very thin skin. If you've got creasing around the lip and this is a big concern of yours, you might like, and this is, a little off the rails, but this is an eye serum. It's called our fruit ceramide eye serum, but it's essentially designed for where the skin's really thin. So, around the eye, but also on the top of the lip. And so this has been a really popular one for the lines increasing that can show up on the lip there. Fruit ceramide eye serum. Let's see. There are a couple products that could be supportive for sensitive skin, a couple really good serums. I will note that right after this call, we do have a group consultation, a group skincare consultation. And Grace, if you want to share the Zoom link for that. So, as you have questions, if we aren't able to answer them or aren't able to get into them, um, please join us on that one if you have time. Because in the group consultations, all we're doing is talking about all of the products. It's a little broader. We're working on building routines. We're working with your specific needs. But specifically for you, Nikki, the probiotic serum is a really supportive one that's really active. It's incorporating both a probiotic complex and an olive leaf ferment. And what that does is that helps to balance out the skin's flora. So it's nourishing the good bacteria. This has been incredibly supportive for very reactive or very active other sensitivities. So I'll leave it at that because this one is quite good, but the probiotic serum is one that I love. Carmen, is it better to use lactic acid in the wintertime or does it not matter? I think it doesn't, with our products, it doesn't really matter. There might be products, I'm thinking back to like my schooling and when I had other roles, like we didn't love doing peels in the summer because the sun is so direct. So as long as you're not using something that intense, it's not going to really make a difference a ton. You might be extra mindful of the frequency with which you're outside and directly in the sun and might take that into consideration. But as far as how they're working with the skin, they have benefits in both seasons for sure. And Tracy, are there products you suggest layering with or products to avoid? Not, no. I'll talk here in a moment about the activated night serum. And that is a product. This has our retinol alternative in it. It's one that I kind of just share awareness around, maybe not caution directly, that some skin types don't love layering them using the lactic toner with the activated night serum. Now, I do, and I love it. I feel like my skin is very smooth. I feel like my skin is very refined. Of course, I'm doing 3 or 4 nights on with both and then 3 or 4 nights off with both. So I'm giving my skin a really direct recovery period after doing that. Um, but that would be something that, again, I would kind of proceed with caution. If you were wanting to use and layer both the botanical lactic toner with the activated night serum, maybe just try it one night and see how it feels. It might be a little too drying, it might be a little too intense, but otherwise, there isn't anything else that we've got that's going to be contraindicated, even the scrubs. So you can exfoliate before either of them. But again, it's one of those things that just move slowly. Maybe start with a more mild physical exfoliant like the Radiant Sea Mask and Polish. And one thing that I've done it, and Rachel, our COO, she recommended this to me is the morning after I've used the lactic toner, use the Radiant Sea Mask and Polish because this one really, really buffs the skin. Let me see here. Another product I do love is this one. This is called the Herbal Facial Oil for oily skin. And I actually use this to spot treat. But this is what I'll apply before sleeping. So good question. Okay. I'm going to answer a few more of these and then I'm going to transition to talk about our retinol alternative because I want to make sure that we have time to get into that. So, if I don't answer your question, I will scroll back up. But we also have our live call or live consultation that's happening right after this. So, you guys can hang out with me longer if you want more Kate time. Lauren's asked if you're using the toner at night, do I use my normal routine of serum and oil or do I not use anything? Oh, that's a brilliant question. And I'm sorry I didn't qualify that because yes, you still do your serum and you still do your oil. So the botanical lactic toner takes the place of your toning mist. You can mist over the top of it. That's an option, especially if you're prone to sensitivity. I never do. I find that it kind of dilutes the intensity of this one, and if I'm using this, I want to use this. So you do your cleanser, you do your toner, botanical lactic toner, and then your serum and your oil. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Emily. Emily's used the eye serum around her eyes and lips, and it has been beneficial. So that's awesome. Carmen has rosacea. Oh, I feel like you guys are just so lovely. Carmen's sharing that she's used the probiotic serum, and the probiotic serum has been very helpful. So amazing. And Grace has shared again. So for those of you who've hopped on our giveaway today, we're giving away two products. So if you're spending 100, you are going to get the botanical lactic toner. You don't have to spend 100 on exfoliants. You don't have to spend 100 on lactic acid. You could just be like replenishing your products. But if you're spending 100 or more, the botanical lactic toner, we're going to give that to you. Now, Grace has put it in the notes, but I do want to qualify for the lactic toner, you do need to use a coupon code and add it to the cart. So you add it to the cart, you use your coupon code, and it will take that total off. We are also giving away our activated night serum with orders over 250, and that will happen automatically. So you only need to remember the coupon code for one, and then if your order happens to be 250 or more, this guy's just gonna magically appear in your cart. So this is a good transition point. Let's talk about retinol. We talked about lactic acid. We talked about lactic acid and how lactic acid is this kind of like refiner. Lactic acid is incredible for smoothing the surface of the skin. Retinols tend to be happening and supporting the skin on lower levels. Now, I want to qualify right out the gate that we don't use retinols. We don't use retinol, we don't use retinoid, we don't use tretinoin. Any vitamin A derivative that ends up being in the form of a retinoid, we are not using. But what we use is called Bioactive A, and it's a retinol alternative. So it's something that is still providing similar effects that a retinol does, but it is working in a way that works with the body. It's one of my most favorite things that we have offered, for our products. And let me talk about the two variations of them. So the first one is the serum, the activated night serum. Now the bioactive A that we have in here is working like a retinol. So this is getting into the skin. It's going to be working a little bit lower. This is where we're really promoting smoothing and really promoting refining happening kind of like two layers down. So if you think of skin, skin's got like five primary layers. We're going to be right around here. with the activated night serum. So it's this effect that's happening, in the moment, but also this effect that happens as you continue to use it and as the skin cells naturally have their shedding cycle. So you've got this 28-day shedding cycle. So these lower layers make their way up to the surface and then become visible skin. And this is where we start to really see the benefits of that. So when I think of like the Bioactive A, the skin effect is often very smooth, almost glossy, like clay-like. It is just absolutely, absolutely radiant. And it is an exfoliant. So similar to lactic acid, it's exfoliating the skin, working in a different way, but it is still something that we want to be conscientious of if we're going to be out into this, out in the sun. The activated night serum. So this is one that when we were crafting this, we really wanted a serum that was like ideal for nighttime, not just because of the bioactive A. So the bioactive A is that retinol alternative. Because this stays on the skin, again, similar to the lactic toner, we don't want you to put it on and then go right out into the sun. You're really it's going to be quite an uphill battle exposing the skin directly to UV with this on. So this is part of the reason this is a night serum. But the serum itself is incredibly well-rounded. I'll show you the consistency here. So this is what it looks like. It is very thick, very rich, very, very creamy. The activated night serum, it's packed, packed, packed with anti-agers. When we were formulating this, we were like, okay, when you sleep and you hit your REM sleep, so hopefully you're getting REM sleep because that's where you feel rested. When you hit your sleep cycle and your REM cycle, your skin goes into this process where it's very softened and there's this natural expansion that happens. So it's a really prime time to be packing the skin with anti-agers. It's very ideal. This is why it's super wise to kind of think about what you're putting on your skin before you go to bed, and also why it's really wise to be washing your face before you sleep. A lot of times I'll work with folks who only do their routine once a day, which is not my personal recommendation, but that works for some people. If that's you, do it in the evening. But to swing back to the activated night serum, it is one that you could use every single night. Certain skin types, again, might start a little slower or might integrate this kind of differently. I've been able to use this a lot more frequently when it gets warmer out, but in the wintertime, I get very dry. And with the dryness, I get very sensitive. So I tend to not do this one every night over the winter. But it looks like for me, a couple nights on, so 3 or 4 nights on, and then 3 or 4 nights off. And that's a pretty sweet spot. And this is one that I have worked with folks who have rosacea or sensitive skin before, and they might just integrate it slower or have a kind of wider pace. So I've got one rosacea customer who uses it every other night. That works for her. That's great. I've got another one who does 2 nights on and then the rest of the week off. And again, that's working for her. So that's awesome. So the feel of this one is similar, how you integrate it is similar to the lactic toner in that you might slow it down. You might have a couple days on, a couple days off. You might use it every single night. A lot of my customers use it every single night, and that's perfectly, perfectly good. Now, the other form of our retinol alternative comes in a very concentrated form as part of our set of three, our concentrated boosting elixirs. So this set, every one of these products is incredibly concentrated. They're very simple formulas and they're very concentrated formulas. Just high level. The first one's hydrate, hydrating the skin. The second one is brighten. This is a vitamin C to brighten the skin. The third one is the revitalize. And this is a concentrated bioactive A. So this is incredibly exfoliating. I used this last night and I accidentally did more drops than I meant to. And it was one of those things where it was like, well, it's already in my hand and I don't want to waste it. And so I put it on, but my cheeks are a little red still, a little pink still this morning from having done it. But as a booster, how you use it is you mix it into either your serum or your moisturizer. So you twist the top off, you do ideally no more than 3 drops. I am proof that you can survive more than 3 drops. You do not want to put it directly on your skin. That's kind of something that we dealt with when we first launched it. And I understand the logic is like, oh, more is better, more concentrated is better. But I tried it for science and it's not comfortable. It really needs a well-rounded serum or moisturizer to be mixed into. One of the big benefits of the Revitalize, which is only available in the set of 3 right now, it's not one that you can get on your own, is that you can intensify or boost any serum or moisturizer. So let's say that the activated night serum, you love the concept of it, but the idea of having 2 serums feels too fussy or you're not interested. With the concentrated boosting elixirs and the Revitalize, you can take an existing serum, something like the wild fruit is really, really nice, and do, a pump or two and then a couple drops of this. And you've kind of created your own variation of a serum at night. No, just like the activated night serum, the Revitalize is only to be used in the evening. But you can intensify the activated night serum. So let's say you have the activated night serum and you want to make this more intense. You can do a couple drops of the Revitalize in it, and it makes a more intense, just a higher active, a more active serum and serum feel. So I'd love to invite in questions and get some of these questions that are here answered. Peggy, yes, you can use the activated night serum every single night. And like we kind of talked about, it might come down to the needs of your skin. You might find that you like it actually doing it every third night or 3 nights on and 4 nights off. And that might be what's really good for you. Melanie, yes. Do you apply anything over the activated night serum? Yes. So just like the toner fits in the toning position in your routine, the activated night serum is going to sit in your serum position. So you will still do your full routine. You're going to cleanse, you're going to tone, you're going to use your activated night serum, and then you're going to apply your preferred moisturizer over the top of that. And that's going to be how you use that. It is rich and creamy, but still for most skin types, it's not quite enough moisture that it would act as like a full-bodied moisturizer. It's very, very rich and supportive for water and hydration, but it doesn't have a ton of fat. So you still want either an oil or a cream over the top of that. Booster and elixir are the terms used interchangeably. So these are boosting elixirs. This is the name of the product. So they're used kind of in conjunction. Elixir is a title or a term we might use for other products as well. Elixir is basically just kind of the like final blend, the concoction, the formulation, the elixir. But in the case of these are called concentrated boosting elixirs. That's what they're called. Hopefully that felt clearer, Nikki. And Grace has shared the link for the boosting elixirs here. A question that I kind of touched on earlier, but I want to swing back to. You can use the lactic toner and the activated night serum together. Both of these can be used for sensitive skin types. I would say if you are somebody who has very active rosacea or something like that, that you'll probably be a little better suited with at least the botanical lactic toner. But these can be used together. I like to do it together, but I do it at a kind of modified pace and use one, and then I take a couple nights off while I'm using that. So what else are we wondering here? Another question that comes up a lot is why don't we have a retinol? Why don't we have a traditional retinol? And I have not enough time to go into it, but to keep it high level, Anne Marie Skincare, we've got a pretty high standard for the products we create. And when we're crafting our products, we're paying attention to every single ingredient and the combination of every single ingredient. So, if we mix Bioactive A and hyaluronic acid, is it still a safe combo? And we're looking at these and we are verifying that they are safe for the body and not just like, oh, they don't hurt the body, but like the whole ecosystem of the body, the hormonal structure of the body. We are paying attention to how these interact with the human experience. We're also paying attention to how these ingredients interact with the planet. And this is a whole other thing that we'll spend more time on in our group consultation. And so if you want to join us, come hang out. But we don't use retinols. Retinols, of one, there's a list of reasons, but one of the reasons was with prolonged use, retinol actually depletes skin. So in the short-term burst, retinol can smooth skin. It can give you this very refined skin. It can help kind of, I don't know, quell breakouts, and it's an exfoliant. But when we look at skin that has been using retinol or retinols for years and years, the skin is super thin, very, very, very tender, and fine lines increasing tend to be like pretty profound because there's not a lot of body to the skin. It really thins it. There's a lot of research also with how retinols and retinoids impact DNA and can impact the hormonal system. And I think that we might have a blog or two about that. I'm less sure. If we do, Grace, will you link it? Um, what we've got going on about retinol. I know we've done like videos and calls about it too. We have a whole call about why we don't use retinol. Okay, thank you, Grace. Grace is on it. Um, but yeah, so with our brand standards, we weren't going to use a traditional retinol. And then the next question that comes up, and then I'll get to Kay's question here, is like, what about bakuchiol? Bakuchiol is a retinol alternative. And what I'll say to that is when we were crafting our two products here, so the Activated Night and the Revitalize, we work with a company called Made Safe, which is a third party. We don't pay them. We love them though. And they test ingredients to verify that they are made safe, that they're safe for the body. And at that point in time, Bakuchiol would not pass Made Safe's standards. Now, to be super fair, I think at this point there is a version of Bakuchiol that is approved by Made Safe, but I would not even know where, which specific one or how to tell you what brand is using that specific one. Otherwise, Bakuchiol was not passing Made Safe standards. And so, that was kind of our first route was like, okay, it's this plant that's an alternative, but it still was not fitting within the quality of products that we create. And then we found this one, Bioactive A, which is actually an algae derivative that provides the super, super smooth look to the skin. So that's kind of the long and short of how we landed on the Bioactive A. Okay, your question. So will the lactic toner help the black hair-like things on the sides of my nose? Ooh, I love this question. So actually, both of these, the lactic toner or the activated night or the revitalize, can be really supportive for impacted pores, specifically in the T-zone. It can be helpful anywhere, but the T-zone is kind of the most common place that we see this. And what those look like, they're not quite blackheads. They're not so profound that they're like an actual black, deep one, but they're darkened. And they're often in the sides of the nose, sometimes the underside, right, of the nose, sometimes down the center of the nose, all of that, where we see this kind of deepening. And both of these are really, really good. I think the botanical lactic works a little faster, so the toner has a little bit of a quicker support. But the activated night serum is definitely a helper too. So if it's a really big concern, you could certainly use both of them. But at minimum, the lactic toner is really good. So good question. Uh, Zoom user. What would be the best for melasma? Ooh, melasma. So if you don't know, from my other friends, melasma is oftentimes this kind of darkened area that can show up around the eyes. Sometimes it's called pregnancy mask, but it definitely happens outside of pregnancy. It's usually hormonally driven. So, depending on where you are at in your life, it could be worth your while to get your hormones checked. If you're perimenopausal or menopausal, it could just be good information to have. But things that can help. So the number one thing, which might feel counterintuitive, is gonna be sunscreen. Melasma is very reactive to UV exposure. And you've probably noticed if you've been outside, even driving in the car and been warm for a long period of time, that looks darker. And that makes sense. It's really prone to kind of moving up to the melanin moving up and being darker when it's exposed to the sun. So wearing sunscreen and reapplying sunscreen. So most sunscreens, actually, I think maybe all sunscreens have a reapplication time. So if you put sunscreen on in the morning, it does not mean you're protected at 3 p.m. And that can look different in different ways. Maybe you just pat a little bit over your makeup before you get in the car on the right side of the face so that that side, which is exposed to the sun, is protected. Um, it could also look like you wear a hat or you have like a shade protector on your window, lots of things. So that's the number one thing with melasma. The wild fruit serum, this one, is one of my favorite. It has brighteners from two angles. So first of all, it has an ingredient called uva ursi, which is a targeted brightener. So uva ursi, what that does is that uh, it seeks out where the melanin is active and then it accumulates. So it builds up on it and tells it to go back to sleep. It tells it it is safe now and it can rest and it does not need to be on alert and high up. It also has an ingredient called cacao plum. This is still the wild fruit serum. And cacao plum is very vitamin C rich. And so, what we're doing when we're using vitamin C is we're working on evening the overall tone of the skin. But I think I said before, but I'll say again, both the lactic toner and the activated night serum, these are working on refining and exfoliating the skin. I mentioned at the beginning of the call when, I was in school and had different, roles, I would do a lot of chemical peels, and lactic acid is always the one that we went for sun damage. So, and then as far as moisturizer, the restorative facial cream, which admittedly is out of stock at the moment, is one of my favorites. So that's that. So I've still got a good 10 minutes. I'd love to answer any other questions here. Um, yeah, thanks, Lauren. Let's see. And Grace has shared the promo info again. I'm curious if anyone has any experiences with retinol. And if you've tried both retinol and you've tried our retinol alternatives, if you could speak to how they feel different or how they might um, feel different on the skin, if you've tried both of them. I can also speak for myself. I've been prescribed retinol years and years and years ago. And I never really was able to use it very consistently because it always dried me out so intensely. Yeah, it was not something that was like a long term, um, not even short term. It wasn't something that I could actually use the way it was directed because my skin was so depleted and red and flaky and uncomfortable. So I didn't have great experiences with retinol. I don't experience that at all with our retinol alternatives. Sometimes, like I said, I used a lot. I used more than I thought. I probably used about 5 drops last night, and it was one where I was like, hey, I'm not putting it back. We're going for it. So my cheeks are like a little on the pinky side. It's not really showing it too much, but yeah, it did. I did really commit when I did it. So. Um, I don't, otherwise, though, I don't experience sensitivity, dryness. Now, if I try to use it every single night, a lot of times I do feel a little bit on the dry side, which is why for me, it works a lot better doing a couple nights on and a couple nights off. So, um, that's how it has gone for me so far. Let's see. Let me scroll up and see what questions I might have missed. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, amazing. And if we don't have any more questions, we might be complete. Grace, if you want to pop in the Zoom link, if you guys are interested or you have questions that you feel like are outside of the retinol lactic range, in about 10 minutes, we're hopping on for a group skincare consultation. And I will say we do generous giveaways on the consultation. We have specific promos for the consultation. But we spend the time on that consultation supporting everyone's needs and building a basic routine. So if you feel like you've got more questions or more specific questions, capture that link, open that link, and yeah, we can get into some really juicy stuff there on that one, on that call. And it's always pretty robust, and everybody's got awesome, awesome questions. So I love the consultations. Yeah, Diane, good to see you too. It sounded like we're kind of winding down. Oh, no, Nikki's got a question. So we're not winding down. Do you feel red light therapy is a good addition or hindrance to my PM routine? I think red light therapy is really good. I think a thing to notice is how high quality is your red light. There are a lot of red lights on the market. And some of them are pretty cheap, and some of them are like basic LEDs. They're not really doing a ton in the skin. Um, yeah, so and I understand you got to hop off in a few, but I think if you've got a good high quality red light, use it as much as you can. It makes huge, huge differences in the skin. I'm a big proponent for red light and red light therapy. So yes, I approve. I like. Do you guys recommend a brand? I don't think that we have a brand that like collectively we've backed. I know I have really liked New Face. I'll spell it in the chat. Nuface. Well, I think this is how you spell it. New Face has one that's pretty good. But that's the only one that comes to mind off the top of my head. I'd have to do a little bit more digging. I think Sunlighten is another one that used to have a red light. I don't know if they still do. Sunlighten's a sauna company, so they've got a lot of cool stuff. But Sunlighten at one point had a red light that was a really high quality red light. But I also know Sunlighten's another kind of small business, and sometimes they have stuff that doesn't stay. So those two are good ones. Um, Nivea. I don't know Nivea, but yeah, if it feels like it's a good one, keep using it. I think that that's pretty solid. So, yeah, big support of red light. What did you say was really good for dark spots? So, both of the lactics that we've been talking about, the resurfacing facial exfoliant and the lactic toner, also the activated night serum and the bioactive A in any form. But also, when I was talking about another product, I was talking about the wild fruit serum. And this is the one that had the brightening that's happening from kind of two different layers. We've got the deep layer with the tyrosinase inhibitor, uva ursi, and then we've got the surface layer, um, cacao plum, that's very vitamin rich, and that's really working on smoothing the skin. So okay, of course. It's okay. So sharing, she just says thank you for the gift that we sent with the 75th order. We do, if you're new to Anne Marie Skincare, we do milestone gifts. So when you have had a certain amount of orders, we just want to honor you and thank you. Obviously, we don't exist without you, and getting to connect with our customers is my absolute favorite part of my job. So I love that we do the little thank you gifts. So I'm glad that you liked it. That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, a few more minutes. Last call for questions. Just to reiterate, we've got the promo. So if you're spending 100, you want to use coupon code ASC 100 Lactic, and that's going to take the total of the lactic toner off. So definitely make sure you add the lactic toner. Now, if you're spending 250, that is going to automatically take place. There's no action required. You don't have to do anything. It just gets added to the cart. So with that, I feel like we're pretty good. Grace, well, there's a note here that says that the coupon code is not valid for the items in her cart. I wonder if you can hop in and support Tracy here. Or what I might do, I'll just pop it in here. In case we don't aren't able to help in the call here, if you want to, so Grace has shared a suggestion, Tracy, but you can also email me directly if that's not working. There is a cutoff time for the promo, but we're pretty chill. So if you contact me or contact customer support, I was gonna say we might be able to help you. Probably that we're a little firmer with the live call cutoffs, but can you list products for my dark spots? Okay, let's wild fruit serum, botanical lactic toner, uh, activated night serum, concentrated boosting elixirs. I think that was all that I mentioned before. Um, Perfect. Okay. I feel like we're complete. If you're coming over to hang out with me in the consult, we'll be on in a few. Otherwise, thank you guys as always for spending some time with us. Well, I appreciate you. I love getting to do these. Um, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. So stay tuned and we'll pop back on. Thanks, Jean. Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.